Welcome to another episode of NTX Live. My name is G.I. Sanders from NTX Vinyl. If you're not familiar with the channel, appreciate you tuning in. If you are familiar, thank you for joining us once again. This is a hopefully weekly. It's been a little semi-weekly lately because I've been busy, which we'll talk about. Weekly show where I will go through all things NTX vinyl as far as what I've got going on, not only with the shop, with inventory, but what I've got going on personally that relates to the shop, and then also anything that has come up recently in regards to news in the industry, music industry, the vinyl industry, those types of things. I've got a ton to go over today. I'm going to talk about the last week of my life, which was seeing Pearl Jam twice at the end of their tour, which is incredible. I'm going to talk about Alice in Chains' Dirt 30th anniversaries today. I've got new T-shirts coming, which I want to talk about. I've got a new release on my label I'm going to show you, which nobody else has seen. I went on a few recent digs. I've got a little bit of stories, not as many stories as I'd hoped to tell. I'll talk to you about that. I'm going to talk to you about heavy rotation, what I've been listening to, upcoming releases, and video topics that I am working on right now that I'd love some Q&A around. So let's dive in. There's a few people trickling in. I appreciate you guys. And, obviously I'm filming this live. A lot of people watch it on demand, which is totally cool as well. But a lot of you know I'm a massive fan of the band Pearl Jam, and last week I had the opportunity to see them twice, which was phenomenal. Haven't seen the band in a year. I saw them their second show back after the long COVID delay. I saw them at the Ohana Fest in Dana Point, California, which is actually happening this coming weekend. Eddie Vedder's playing it this weekend. Last year, Pearl Jam played in addition to Eddie Vedder and My Morning Jacket and Black Pumas. It was an incredible event a year ago. So it's been a year since I've seen the band. Prior to that, it had been a couple years. So last week, I went to two shows. I went to Oklahoma City, and I'll talk about that. And then 2 days later, went to Denver. Both were incredible. These were the last two shows of their tour. They do not have, I don't believe they have any other shows booked in the US or in the world for that matter. So this was wrapping up quite a jaunt for them. Hey, what's up, Don? Oh, you were in St. Louis. Nice. All of the shows that I have, the set list that I've looked at leading up to the OKC and Denver shows were really great, but I was really happy with what we got. So OKC, I had general admission tickets, which was amazing. I didn't have them till just a couple of days before. One of my customers and now friends actually totally hooked me up. I had floor seats, but they were at the very back of the floor, which would have been fine. But I love general admission because you get a little bit closer, and more importantly, you can move around instead of being kind of just confined to your seat. So being in the general admission section at a Pearl Jam show is no easy feat. It's pretty small because these are arenas. They're not playing stadiums. These are basketball or hockey arenas. And, they hold 15 to 20,000 depending on the arena you're in. And general admission sells out really quickly, mostly completely to their fan club. Hey, Hector, I've got your email, man. I know exactly what you're talking about. You're opening your shop down in Mexico, I think I remember. So I'll get to it just behind and listen to my story a little bit, and you'll know why I'm behind. So Oklahoma City had general admission. The big deal with this show is I'm taking my son, who's 12, and so I was getting to take him to his first Pearl Jam show, which was just an absolute treat and something, honestly, I never thought I'd be able to do. This tour was originally scheduled before COVID, so it's been delayed, 2.5, 3 years. And my son was 9 back then, my older son. So I was not planning to take him because 9, it's a little much to sit through a 2+ hour Pearl Jam show when you're 9. But now he's 12 and he could totally hang. So we got to be down in the general admission section and enjoy the show. It was a really great night. They opened with Garden, which is a song that is not a typical opener for them. And in fact, it's the only time they've ever opened with it in the history of the band, which was just amazing. I didn't know that at the time. I knew it was an oddball opener, but I didn't know that until after the fact. And then we've got some rarities right up front. A song called "Sleight of Hand" off Riot Act, which was really cool to see live. Never seen that one live before. A song called "Hard to Imagine." Also, another one I've never seen before. That's a B-side from the Versus Vitology era. That they play semi frequently, but I've never caught it. This was these were my 15th and 16th Pearl Jam show, so OKC was 15. Then we got "Hail Hail" off of No Code, which was phenomenal. I love everything off the No Code record, so I was really glad to get that one. We also got "Habit," which was a pretty rare one for this tour. "Mind Your Manners." I was really glad to see something off Lightning Bolt because I love that record. That's the last time I've seen him during the Lightning Bolt tour, other than the Ohana Fest a year ago. And then in the encore, we got "Go." We got a debut. In fact, the only time they played the song "Alone" on the entire tour was at the OKC show. "Alone" is a rarity or B-side from 10, and does not get played very frequently. So that was really fantastic. And then we got "Porch," "Alive," and "Different," "Rockin' the Free World." It was phenomenal. The whole OKC crowd and show was really good. I think my son really enjoyed it. I think the biggest thing I think I took away, because my son's been to a lot of concerts. Don't get me wrong, this was not my son's first concert by any means. It was his first Pearl Jam concert, but he's seen Guns N' Roses, he's seen Paul McCartney, he's seen Foo Fighters, he's seen Jack White, he's seen just a ton of local bands here. The last concert he saw was the Lumineers, and he asked me when we got down into the pit, into the general admission area. Well, first he asked me if there was going to be moshing, and I thought that was hilarious. And I told him, if there's any moshing, you jump right in. That's how confident I am that there won't be any moshing at a Pearl Jam show, because it's a bunch of 40, 56-year-old dudes like me who have no interest in that anymore. But at least I don't. So I'm speaking for myself. But so that was funny. And then the other thing he noticed right off the bat was the scarcity of the stage, meaning there's not a lot going on. It's just a stage and some lights. And he had just seen the Lumineers. My wife took him and my other son just a month or two ago. And that show in particular had all kinds of theatrics, right? There was all kinds of stage and props and all kinds of stuff going on. And he noticed right off the bat, he was like, is there more than this? And I said, no, that's the thing about a Pearl Jam show. It's literally just the band. I mean, there's some lights, but nothing extravagant. There's no props. There's no B stage or C stage. It's just a rock show. And he kind of got it. I think midway through, he was like, I could tell he was really getting it. It's just pure energy and pure passion from the fans, which is amazing. So we walked away from that show really blown away. It was fantastic. It was just such an experience to be able to do that with him. And then we drove home the next morning, which for those who don't know, Oklahoma City is about 2.5 hours north of Dallas. So we drove back home the next morning, and then I had a flight that night with my wife to go to Denver. And the Denver show was on the Thursday night, so a Tuesday and a Thursday. So the band had a day off in between for travel. So Denver was the last show of the tour, as you'd expect on a long tour. The last one, you're always hoping for something special or something different. But it's hard with a Pearl Jam show. Every show is different. For those who don't know the band, like Eddie writes the set list before every show, completely, specific to that audience, to that show. He looks at what they played previously, even if they haven't been there in years, and pulls out all kinds of rarities and oddities. There's no script in a Pearl Jam show. There's a few songs that you'll get just about every night. That is alive and even flow, usually Given to Fly. That's about it. There's maybe 5 or 7 songs that will make it into most shows, but then the other 20 songs are completely fresh. So if you go see 10 Pearl Jam shows, you're going to see 10 completely different set lists, which is amazing. So it's hard to think like, hey, what are they going to do that's so special? But Denver was great. It was a long road opened it up, which is one of their, I would say, staple openers. They typically open with 2, 3, or maybe even 4 kind of chill, slower songs, and then before they dive in. So it was great to get Long Road. I love that track off of the I Got Id single back in the No Code era. Let's see. Highlights of the Denver show. Thin Air was really cool off of Binaural. Never heard that song live. Present Tense was probably the one song I'd hope to hear out of all of the Pearl Jam songs because it's my absolute favorite. It's one of my top 5 songs ever, not just from Pearl Jam. So getting to hear Present Tense live was amazing. This is the second time I've heard it. The last time was at Madison Square Garden in 2010. So that was fantastic. I loved hearing Spend the Black Circle. They covered Neil Young's Throw Your Hatred Down, which was phenomenal. A really cool version of a song called River Cross, which is off Gigaton, the latest record, which isn't a song I've paid a ton of attention to, but live, Eddie goes over to the organ and plays it, and they turn off all the lights, and it's one of those where they tell everyone to use their cell phone to use the flashlights and light it up. So that was really cool. We got Lukin, we got Rearview Mirror, which I was pumped for. Eddie did an acoustic solo version, or he was on a Strat, actually, it's electric version of Tom Petty's I Won't Back Down, which was really special. And the highlight for me was Chloe Dancer, Crown of Thorns. I'd never heard it live before, so we got the Mother Love Bone cover, which was just phenomenal. And then they closed it with a live Baba O'Reilly by The Who, which I love hearing. We heard Rockin' in the Free World the night before. Those are 2 of their main cover songs that they close with. And then they shut it down with Yellow Ledbetter, which they always do. So absolutely amazing. So glad we made the effort. Yeah, it was a crazy week. I did come away under the weather, as did others in our camp and a lot of other people from the show. So I'm just now kind of starting to feel a little better, which is awesome. So, so Pearl Jam week was awesome. I wanted to kind of recap a little bit of that. And honestly, I haven't really thought about it too much since the show. Going through the set list is really cool. So, that's been top of mind for me. The other thing that's top of mind today is this right here, and that is Dirt. 30 years ago today, this came out. It's pretty crazy to think about. It's been 30 years since this album dropped because I remember when it dropped. This is the brand new remaster. Hopefully you've already got a copy. If you don't, hit me up. I've got it in stock. I've got a ton of them. I just listened to it for the first time in the last hour. It is phenomenal. So this is a 2 LP remastered version. Can't recommend it enough. Sorry, I'll go back to the questions because we're getting some Pearl Jam questions. I moved on too fast. What are your thoughts on the altered lyrics to Yellow Ledbetter these days? To be honest with you, I don't even notice. Yellow Ledbetter, this is probably sacrilege, but I'm not a Yellow Ledbetter fan. Like I could go without hearing Yellow Ledbetter. I get it that it's kind of their staple closer, and it does make a good kind of end cap to a show, but I think I've just heard it so many times. I'm kind of over it. So I don't know. So I guess Eddie's altering the lyrics. I wasn't sure about that. These aren't all stars. That's really cool, Nick. You named your daughter Chloe after Chloe Dancer. That's really cool. All right. So back to Alice in Chains, and throw out more questions if you got them. I don't care about jumping around. That's fine. Is that Dirt the one pressed at MPO or United? Yeah. So it's interesting. I was looking on Discogs about Alice in Chains Dirt to see what was going on. I'm looking in the Dead Wax. It's got WG. So I don't think this is the MPO cut. This one sounded fantastic. The reviews on Discogs were all over the place. That was one of the things I was talking about. It's so crazy to me that an album that came out 30 years ago, and for the most part, if I go back 2-3 years, this album was readily available, Alice in Chains Dirt. Like you could pick it up all day long. I had it in stock when I first opened NTX Vinyl. I had tons of them, and it was no big deal. But then it went out of print, and you haven't been able to get it the last couple of years. And so now it's like a huge deal that's back in stock, which is just crazy. Well, I don't know. That's a testament to how good the album is, first of all. But it's also a testament to the vinyl industry, and that's how many people have started collecting in the last couple of years or amped up their collecting. So that's just really eye-opening to me. I don't know how I see your comments. I'll go ahead and show it. The F word made it blocked. I'm not sure what you mean by effed up this release because it sounds absolutely fantastic to me. I've seen people bitching that it's not in a gatefold. Well, okay, you bitch that it's not in a gatefold, but then don't bitch that the prices of records are going up because the reason it's not in a gatefold is to keep the costs down. You could say it's also to keep their profits high. it doesn't make any difference. The same difference is I can tell you from pressing records myself that the cost of a gatefold is substantially more than a slimline. Do I wish it was in a gatefold? Sure, that would be super cool. But was the original in a gatefold? No, it was not. The original came with the insert exactly like this one does. And I just played, like I said, I just played this copy and sounds absolutely phenomenal. So I'm not sure why you think they screwed this up, but in my opinion, they did a great job. So, but maybe your copy's no good. I don't know. I saw the difference between the two different cuts, and this version I just played was fantastic. So, let's see. They're opening for Smashing Pumpkins in America on Sunday night. Jane's is, yeah, Jack. Jane's is opening for Pumpkins. Don, have you listened to the exclusive red vinyl reissue from Wally World? Threads are saying it's actually a good press on red wax. I'm going to talk more about Walmart here in a little bit, but that doesn't surprise me because the Walmart version is pressed from the same lacquers and the same stampers that every other version is. It's no different. It's all the same records, people. That's part of a topic that I'm going to talk about as far as upcoming videos. So yeah, just to clarify, like if most of the time, if you're getting a record from Walmart, you shouldn't think, oh, it's a Walmart version. Isn't it any good? It's the same version. It's coming from the same pressing plants. It's coming, there are some intricacies there, which I'll get into, but by and large, there's no such thing as a Walmart record other than the fact that they put their sticker on it and they paid a lot of money to get an exclusive color. That's the only difference. It's coming from the same plants. Walmart does not have pressing plants. They don't have anything to do with making records. So, yeah. So Alice in Chains Dirt, 30 years. So excited. Same UPC for different cuts and possible to differentiate. You're in the weeds here. I get it. Like, but what does that mean to the normal collector? Like, I don't know if that makes any difference. Is one better or worse? I saw conflicting reviews on both of the different pressings of it. And I think this is just me speculating, but I believe the reason why there were different cuts of the Alice in Chains record is because they actually pressed enough to meet demand, which is an amazing thing because the last couple of years, nobody's been able to do that, but they sourced it from two different pressing plants. Now, is there a potential quality control difference or quality difference in general because it came from different plants? Absolutely. So that could be troublesome. And I don't have both versions. I only have this one. So I don't know if the version that's got the MPO cut on it is a little subpar. So, but I'm excited. I think the moral for me is that I'm just excited that the record's available again after so many years of people asking for it. And the previous pressing from Music on Vinyl, which is great. Single LP, that one has skyrocketed in price, and you just haven't been able to get it for, like I said, 2-3 years now. So I'm pumped that it's back. So there you go. If you need a copy of Dirt, let me know. I've got like 100 of them in stock, ready to ship. So just let me know. Hit me up. Shoot me a message. Go to our website. You can find it there if you search for it. So super excited about that. Let's see. A couple things before we get into more like Q&A style stuff. I've got new t-shirts coming. This has been highly requested. So this shirt here, which is what I call my Skull and Roses or just my Grateful Dead design. I've got more of these coming. They're being printed in the next week or two. I also have my Pearl Jam logo that I've done with the Stick Man. I'm doing shirts for that, which I'm pumped about. I should have done them and worn it to the shows. It would have been cool, but I didn't get them in time. So those are both coming. So if you're looking to get an NTX shirt, which a lot of people ask me about, hang tight, and I'll announce a pre-order and an order for those here in the next couple of weeks as soon as they get in. I've got new stickers, new Pearl Jam stickers coming as well. I've also got more of my Nirvana logo stickers and some canvas tote bags with a Nirvana logo. So lots of new swag coming from NTX land. So keep an eye out for that stuff. Let's see other things. This is an album that no one else in the world has. I can say that confidently because I have the only 200 copies of it in my possession, and that is the latest release on my record label, the DFW Legacy Series. A lot of you, if you're not local, will never have heard of this, but it's a band called Slow Roosevelt. This is their debut album called Starving Saint Nick. It came out in 1996 on CD. It has never been pressed on vinyl, and they just landed, and you're getting a first look at it. This is a really heavy hitting record that I'm super excited. Just listened to it for the first time. I played Dirt and then I played this. and I'm so glad to bring it to vinyl. If you don't know what the DFW Legacy Series is, it's my reissue record label that I started with a couple of buddies, where we put out records for bands from our local scene back in the day. So we put out either put out or announced almost 20 titles in the last 2 years, which is unbelievable. This one being, I think this is number 15 in the catalog. Yeah, this is number 15. If you like bands like Filter, Pantera, heavy stuff. This is a heavy record. Heavy guitar riffs, heavy drums, 4-piece band, numbered, 200 limited edition copies. There will never be any more made of this. So if you're looking to pick up a cool record from a band you've never heard, or maybe you're familiar with the Dallas scene, check out Slow Roosevelt Starving Saint Nick. You can get it at dfwlegacyseries.com. They will be shipping and available for pickup in the next week or two. We just got them in. I haven't even unpacked them. I just pulled that one copy out to check it out. So really excited about that. All right, let's get into a few other things. For everybody who shops with me on the Vinyl for Sale show, all the orders already went out, and we're going to do the giveaway. We did a giveaway for this Neil Young box set called Noise and Flowers. So everyone who made a purchase is entered to win this, and I'll do the giveaway probably later today or maybe early tomorrow. So look for that. I usually post it on Facebook and on the YouTube community tab. I'll post the winner in the video that I do that kind of randomly chooses the winner. So thanks for everybody for the continued support there on Vinyl for Sale. I'll have another episode of that, probably another 2 weeks or so. I don't have anything lined up for this weekend. Usually like to do those bi-weekly. And then let's see. Yesterday, so despite feeling a little under the weather, I had 3 different local appointments yesterday to look at collections, and I was really hoping to come to the table today with some exciting stuff to show you that I discovered. But unfortunately, these can be hit or miss, and they were mostly misses. I had 3. The first one no-showed on me, which was unfortunate. I'm still hoping to hear back from him because apparently he had some pretty decent stuff. The second one was decent. I think I acquired about 300 records, mostly classic rock stuff. There wasn't anything super interesting or unique. There was Zeppelin and Stones and Fleetwood Mac and all the good kind of standards, if you will. So I'll be pricing that stuff up over the next couple of weeks for my local shops, which is where I sell pre-owned records. And then the last one I had, there was actually some good stuff, but it was all in terrible condition. So I was disappointed with that. So it was a long day of driving around to come away with a couple hundred records. So it was worth it in the end. But I was hoping to have like a cool story about, tales from the dig and out, dealing with people grabbing records. But it didn't work out. So I didn't have much to say for that. If there was anything interesting, I would have brought it to show you. So, all right. Let's see. Heavy rotation. What am I listening to? So this is kind of so other than Dirt and the Slow Row, I'm still listening a ton to Pink Floyd Animals, still in heavy rotation. If you don't have this, you got to check it out. If you're a Pink Floyd fan, if you're a fan of Animals, you got to hear this remix. It's so good. So excited about that still. And still listening to the New Tone Poet, Blue Train from John Coltrane. And then this segues into new releases a little bit. Just got this MGMT release, which is really cool. This is what is this? Oracular Spectacular. I can never say that. Very strange album name. This is a cool record, and this is comes on hot pink vinyl. This is a Record Store Day exclusive. And so many people know that I do not participate in Record Store Day, but you can. I'm sorry, not the exclusive. This is a Record Store Day essential. I misspoke. Record Store Day exclusives only RSD approved shops can get, and I'm not. They won't let me in the club. It's all good. But the essentials are available just like indie exclusives, so all record stores can get these. So I'm excited to have this in stock. This is a cool record if you're into indie rock. Songs like Electric Feel and Time to Pretend, really cool. So I've got these in stock now, and I've been listening to this one since I got it a few days ago. The other big releases this week, segueing into that. Forgot one more heavy rotation. I'm listening a lot to this Swell Season record. I had this in the most recent Vinyl for Sale show. This is Glenn Hansard's first record. and it coincides with the really cool music themed movie Once. If you're not familiar, the Once soundtrack is a really hard one to come by, and this features several songs off of that, in addition to a bunch of other stuff that's really cool. So if you're a Glenn Hansard fan, hit me up because I've got copies of this one too. So I've been listening to that one. And then as far as new releases this week, the new Slipknot is out. Here's the new Slipknot. Check that out. I've got tons of these in stock too. This is the limited edition neon yellow vinyl. I haven't heard this. I'm not a big Slipknot fan. I may actually try and give this one a shot. We'll see. I don't know. Other new releases this week. Wilco's Yankee Foxtrot Hotel is finally getting reissued. There's deluxe versions and all kinds of goodness around that. So that drops this week. I'll have that in stock. The UPS guy is supposed to land at any moment and dropping the rest of these off. I got one shipment in already with some new stuff like the Slipknot and the MGMT. But the band Off, punk rock band out of California, they've got a new record coming out. LSD, I believe is the name. So I've got that landing. I'm looking forward to checking that out. I'm good buddies with the guitar player in that band. I don't know if I'd say good buddies. I'm acquaintances. We used to be good buddies, but we haven't talked in a long time with the guitar player and Off. There's a new Willie record coming out. There's a new Pixies record. There's a Dead Kennedys reissue. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming out this week, reissues and new stuff. I'll have all that landing, and we'll obviously push that through so everyone can take a look. And some of that stuff will end up in upcoming episodes of Vinyl for Sale as well. Jack asks, have you listened to Glow On by Turnstile yet? I haven't. But it's funny you asked that. Last night or the night before, I put on a live show of theirs on YouTube. As I was clicking around, it popped up as a recommendation. And I get it. I think maybe I could get into it if I really tried to. I don't know how hard I'm going to try, though. It's just a little too hardcore for me. That's the honest truth. Like, I don't know. The show I watched was pretty entertaining. It looked like it was from the late 80s, early 90s. There was like slam dancing, guys jumping all over the stage and stuff. So I'm really glad that music like that still exists. I just don't know if I'm at a point where I will engage with it, but I need to. I really do. I've got a bunch of Turnstile in stock if you need it. So yeah, I agree with you there. It was a little all over the map, and I just kind of segued through a couple tracks. So yeah, Turnstile is one that's been on my radar, and a lot of people keep telling me I need to check it out. So I'm inching my way there. All right, so let's see. I've got a couple other topics. So upcoming videos I'm planning on doing. Let's talk about Walmart. So I am going to shoot a video about Walmart. I've done a video in the past about big box albums, but it's such a hot topic and continues to be one. And so I think my topic, and I'm just going to talk you through this, and then, hopefully this will help me formalize what the video becomes, because I might actually shoot it right after I'm done with this live stream, depending on what else comes up. Should you be ashamed to buy vinyl records at Walmart? That's my working title. The reason why that's my working title is because I see it all the time. The group I'm in the most is my group, which is called Now Spinning on Facebook, which I've mentioned before. If you don't know that, there's the UPS man. If you just heard the doorbell, if you don't know the Now Spinning group, I will post it here. That way you can join if you'd like, if you're into the Facebook thing. That is a group that I started a while back, and inevitably, not anytime, but a lot of times when someone will post, so Now Spinning group is essentially show and tell. Show us what you're spinning. That's the whole point of the group. And people will post, in fact, post a copy of this, but the Walmart version, which came on red vinyl, because they screwed indie stores. Sony did, and they didn't give the indie stores anything different. Gave us the normal black version, which happens a lot these days. But anytime someone posts, or a lot of times someone posts picture of a record, it's from Walmart, there's always like this asterisk, like, I'm sorry, like, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I bought it anyways. And it's not all the time, but it's a lot of times because people feel ashamed that they shopped at Walmart for records. And I'm like, first of all, if you want the red version of Dirt, if you want the version on red vinyl, you can't get that at an indie store because Walmart's the only one who has it. So it's not, you could have bought the black one from an indie store, but a lot of people like the colored versions. I totally get that. So it's no skin off my back. Like, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't compete with an album that I can't sell, right? And that I'm speaking for all indie stores, like because no indie stores can get that red version, just as an example. And so a lot of people are like hesitant to show it off because it's like, oh, you shop at Walmart for your records, and a lot of people get, start trolling and bashing on people who do that. When the reality is, like back in the good old days, like every big box store sold records. Like, you could go into Kmart and Sears and they all sold vinyl records. But in the 90s, it all went away because the CDs took over all the shelves. And now they're selling records again. And there's like this weird stigma around whether or not you should buy them. Well, I guess what? I own an independent record store. So I would love it if nobody shopped at Walmart and they only bought records from my shop or any independent shop. But that's not reality. And it's just, ridiculous, honestly, because people are going to shop where they can, because a lot of people don't have independent stores. People are going to shop, guess what, where the prices are the best. That's just the world we live in, and I don't blame anyone for that. And then even more so, they're going to shop where there are cool exclusives, which Walmart has a lot of cool exclusives. I don't like the fact that Walmart gets cooler stuff than independent stores a lot of times in regards to colored records or deluxe versions or like add-ons and things. But that's the way it's going right now because Walmart can bankroll a whole bunch and they can buy a whole bunch of inventory, and labels are in a position to turn that offer down, and so they take them up on it. And if I don't know how many copies of Alice in Chains Dirt were pressed, let's say that they did a run of 20,000. Like I don't even know if that's a lot. I feel like that's probably right. Like they probably did 20 or 30,000 or something, totally guessing. But let's say they did 20,000. Well, what happens is Sony says, "Hey, we're going to do 20,000." And then they go to Walmart and they say, "Hey, do you want an exclusive on this?" And Walmart says, "Yes, we'll take 10,000 of those and we'll buy them from you right off the bat, but only if you give us an exclusive version to where it's on an exclusive color and we can put our sticker on the front." And Sony says, well, that's a guaranteed sale of 10,000 albums. No brainer. They're going to do it every time. Amazon's doing it. Walmart's doing it. Target's doing it. Barnes and Noble's doing it. That's how they do it. It's guaranteed sales. Indie stores are doing this too, but indie stores do it on a much smaller level because they're not a corporation. So they can't go in and do it with these huge releases. But indie stores all day long will do exclusives in the same fashion where an artist or a label is pressing maybe a couple thousand of a record and they say, hey, break us off 500 just for our shop. And then a specific shop like Newberry or Plaid Room or like whatever has, a smaller subset of an exclusive version. So it happens all across the board, but it's most evident in the big box world because the numbers are bigger and because it's a mainstream thing because you can get it everywhere, right? So George says, if you love music, in my opinion, it doesn't matter where it's from. Just enjoy the music. Love your stuff from the UK. Thank you, George. I completely agree. I don't fault anyone for purchasing records anywhere because I think and I've said this before and I'll say it again in the new video I'm going to shoot, what Walmart is doing and Target and Amazon, et cetera, regardless if I love it or hate it. And believe me, some days I hate it. Some days it kills me, but it is keeping this industry not only alive, it is propelling this industry forward because what it is doing is taking vinyl records from this little niche thing where total nerds like me and you collect these records. We've been doing it for years. A lot of us have and never stopped doing it. That's fine. That can only sustain so far. What the big boxes have done is they've brought it back to the mainstream to where normal Joe Schmoes who haven't ever bought records or maybe haven't bought them in years, or people who never knew records existed because maybe they're 20 years old and they never had that experience ever. Now they're engaging in this hobby and that's what's going to make this thing stick. So that's kind of the overarching theme of my point of view. Let's see what we're looking for here. Hippie ask, do you have any copies of Yuri Heat? No, I'd have to check. That would be pre-owned stuff probably in my shops. Don says Target is in that game too. I feel less dirty buying from them somehow, but always buy a copy from an indie too. Lots of duplicates. Yeah. No, I mean a lot of people do. A lot of people buy, the black version and the color version. And again, I think the point for me is that what they're doing, while detrimental in the short term to independent stores in some ways, if I really got into the weeds with it, um, it's still helping the industry because it's exposing it to new collectors everywhere. So I think that's big. So let's see. Oh, this is talking about new collectors. Like I mentioned, people who are now walking into Walmart and seeing records on the shelves and discovering the entire format. The price point's big too. A lot of people are concerned right now that records are getting too expensive. And I think, yes, if you collected records pre-COVID or going back years before that, records were absolutely cheaper. But if you take yourself out of, put yourself into context here, and let's pretend that you just started collecting records a year ago or 2 years ago. Well, records have been the same price in the last year or two. They haven't gone up that much, And point being, you used to be able to walk into a record store 10 years ago if you could find one and you could buy a new record for $15 or $20. But if you just started collecting the last year, you don't even know that existed. So it's normal that a record costs $30, $40. That's what a new record costs these days. A double LP, single LP, maybe 20 to 30. I don't like that they cost that much either, but everything's more expensive these days and new collectors don't know any different. And so I don't think that's going to be a big detriment. A lot of people are like, records getting too expensive, I'm getting out of this. Well, yeah, but that's because you've been in it a long time and you used to pay a lot cheaper prices. But there's a whole lot of people who are fueling this industry that don't know any different because records have cost the same essentially in the last couple of years since they started collecting. They've inched up a little bit because of COVID and supply and demand issues and all that. But and so there you go. Target versus Walmart versus Amazon, it's all the same. I mean, I talked about just a second ago. I said some days it kills me, sometimes it's fine. The place where it kills me, and I'll tell you this, is I deal with records every day, new inventory. And a lot of times there are titles that I would love to sell. I would love to stock certain titles in my shop. And I could, but my prices would be so much higher than Amazon that it makes me feel bad because I know what you do. I do the same thing. If I'm at a record store and I see a title, I'm like, oh, that looks cool. It's $40. I wonder if that's the best price. So you scan it, you shop around right there in the store. It takes you 5 seconds and you see that, oh, Amazon's got it for $29.99 versus the MSRP that indie stores get it for is $39.99. Well, the reality is a lot of times I'm bringing in out, I'm looking to buy albums wholesale to stock in my shops or online. And what it costs me to buy them as an independent record store is sometimes more than what Amazon is selling them for. That's the kick in the nuts. Like, and it happens a lot. And so there are certain titles, big titles, standard titles that should be in every record store where I'm just like, why am I even going to stock this? Because my price is $10 more than Amazon. If I can get close, if I can get within a few dollars, I don't feel that bad because I know, some people will support an indie shop even if it's like $3 or $4 or $5 more. Like, I'm in the shop right now. I'd love to go home with it right now. I'm holding it in my hands versus having it shipped from Amazon and praying that it shows up not damaged, right? So I get that within a reason. But if you scan an album, if you're in a record store, mine or any, and it's a new record, and you see that you can save $15 by getting it somewhere else, primarily a big box, like, there's nothing I can do about that. Like, I can't, so I just simply don't stock the record because I feel bad because if someone comes into my shop and they want to buy this new record and then they scan it and check it on Amazon and it's $15 cheaper, that makes me look stupid. Like, why are you overpriced? I'm like, I'm not overpriced. I literally can't get it I can't get it as cheap as Amazon because Amazon completely cut out the middleman. They completely cut out the distributors. What you have to understand, there's the pressing plant. The label works with the pressing plant. The pressing plant then delivers albums to distributors, and distributors then distribute them to retail outlets, which are independent record stores. Well, Amazon and Walmart and all the big boxes, they said, you know what? We'll be our own distributor. And so they get them right from the plant. So there's no middleman. So that's why they get them so much cheaper. And a lot of times we just simply can't compete. And again, if I can get within a couple dollars, it's not a big deal. But if there's albums, which there are plenty that are $10, $15 cheaper on Amazon, I can't do anything about that other than just, look like I have really high prices, which is not a good look for any store. So, all right. J Rock 242 says, "What are the odds of a vinyl release of Course of Empire?" I don't know. I'll noodle on that. Nick asks, do the mom and pop snobs use that logic for everything they purchase or just records? Support local when you can, but you can't all the time. I agree with you, Nick. There's nothing. Sometimes you just have to go with the best price, and or the most availability. There's no way around it. I think you have indie stores, myself included. You just have to take the good with the bad. The bad is that I can't beat their prices in a lot of scenarios, and I can't stock great albums at prices that are even competitive. That's the bad. The good is that people are walking into Walmart, Target, et cetera, every day discovering that, holy shit, records are made again. People buy records. I didn't even know these still existed. Like, that's the good. And then hopefully they then do a little research and find a local record store, whether it's in their town or online, and it perpetuates the hobby, and they realize there's more than just records at Walmart, but that it's a gateway is what it is. So I think that's important to remember. And again, I've talked about this stuff before. I think the last time I did a Walmart video was like 2 years ago when they first really started. And that's the thing that's crazy about it is, it was a big topic like 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago, mid-COVID, when Walmart started doing their big Black Friday sale stuff. And it was like an uproar in the vinyl community about people going and buying records because they were so cheap at Walmart. And here we are 2-3 years later, still talking about it. It's not going anywhere. Like, hopefully, because if it goes somewhere, if Walmart all of a sudden stops selling records, that's a bad sign for me. Bad sign. Because that means people are getting out of the game. And I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's got longevity. So that's, just it is what it is. There's no way you can really fight it in a lot of ways. And it is frustrating. The bad part, the frustrating part is when this gets announced and Walmart announces they got the red exclusive. Alice in Chains on their website had an orange exclusive in addition to a box set. And then 2 days later, after people are already pre-ordering that shit everywhere, oh, now indie stores, here you go. Here's the black version. Like, some people like black more, but there's a huge contingency of collectors these days who love the colored records. And I'm totally down with it. It's totally cool. But that's frustrating as hell. And it's not just happening on this release. There are major releases that have come out in the last year or two where, and then, see, the problem is the indie exclusive, that used to be what the indie would get. The indie would get the cool colored version, but now Walmart's and Amazon's just swoop in and go, nope. If we're gonna buy those 10,000 from you up front, we get the exclusive. Don't give it to anyone else. And then again, Sony's like, oh shit, guess we're screwing the indie stores. Music industry is so short-sighted. I mean, again, I get it, but they should play hardball more. They should find a way. They could find a way if they wanted to, but when it comes down to it, they just take the money. How has Tool Opiate been so cheap for so long? That's a good question. That record is so cheap. I don't know why certain titles like that. The wholesale on that record is like less than $10, so it sells for like $15 all day long. I don't know why. I mean, there's a lot of other EPs that are 6-7 songs, but they're not that cheap. I don't know why. I don't know why certain titles. I mean, that's a good question in regards in general. Like, okay, this is a 2 LP. Black vinyl, slimline jacket. So let's assume you got, 20 other just like it. How come the MSRP on this is $35 or $32 or $35, somewhere around there? But then another artist, it may be 25 or 30. How does that differ? Well, that differs because they know their market. They think Alice in Chains is a bigger brand name, so the MSRP differs. That's what makes the Tool thing so odd. You would think because Tool is such a big brand name, you would think they would mark up that EP, but for whatever reason, they just pressed it back in the day. It's been in print for years, and it's been readily available. So it's an odd thing. It's an odd outlier. I know exactly what you're talking about. Um, Jack says you add value by letting us know about upcoming releases, pre-orders, and shows like this. Walmart doesn't offer that. I don't mind paying a little extra for this. Amen. That's the hope. That's the hope, man, is that by having some sort of presence physically online, having an educational presence, like that's kind of how you have to do it if you're an indie store these days, in my opinion. Obviously, see what I do, but if you're in, and I see it all the time. I'm in groups of independent record store owners, and there are people who are like, nope, I don't sell records online. Like, come into my shop or you can't get it. And I'm like, wow, like that's pretty old school. If you can survive like that, that's freaking awesome. That means you've got an amazing community and you've got a huge customer base, a return customer base. And a lot of record stores do, because they've been around a long time. Me, I just started this a couple years ago, and I was like, there's no way I could do this without, the online presence. And I say it all the time. If you're a small business and you're not taking advantage of social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, et cetera, you're kind of short-sighted, in my opinion. But a lot of people aren't into it, and I get it. I wish I didn't have to do this, but in the end, it's created a world that is so unique for me, and created connection with people, that's, I think, provided a lot of value, in both ways, and it's expanded the business just in ways I never would have imagined. So yeah, to wrap it up, that's the Walmart topic. I'm going to shoot a video on that. Talking through this with you guys actually helps, so that's good. The other topic I'm kicking around, feel free to ask any Q&A that you have, while I get into this other topic. The other topic I have came from a conversation and now spinning too. And is it good for the hobby of record collecting to keep some releases limited? So that's not the best title, but that's the topic. And here's what the conversation was. I posted, I didn't grab it. It's right over there. It's in my soundtracks. I posted a copy of the I Am Sam soundtrack, which is a movie that did not come out recently. It's an older movie, written and starring Sean Penn and Susan Sarandon, I think. Could be making that up. The soundtrack came out for Record Store Day a number of years ago, and it's a great soundtrack. It's all Beatles covers by like Granddaddy, and Eddie Vedder's on there, the Black Crowes and Ben Harper, and just a who's who, all doing really well done covers of Beatles songs, which you would think would be a pretty popular release, and it is. A lot of people want it. Record Store Day released it, and I want to say, I'm looking it up, I want to say it was limited to like 2,500 copies or something. This is, again, I'm getting to the topic. Let me see. I Am Sam. I'm on my Discogs. Here we go. So it came out in 2019. So it was only like 3 years ago. It was a Record Store Day release. It doesn't say how many copies it was limited to. It just says first time on vinyl. So anyways, I posted a picture of that in Now Spinning. I love that soundtrack. And one of the members engaged me in a conversation about it and said, because I think my comment was, man, this is really in need of a repress, because I know a lot of people like that record, like the soundtrack, because it's all Beatles songs, really well done by like top tier artists. So you would think it would be readily available, even though it wasn't like a big feature film or anything, blockbuster film anyways. And the conversation essentially was, no, I hope they don't repress it, because then I won't have a rare record anymore. And I said, well, yeah, but I would much rather people be able to experience the music, because there's a lot of people, or there's probably other people out there like me, who primarily listen to music on their turntables and don't stream it as much. And so there you go. Thank you, Don. Says limited to 1,500. Exactly, 1,500 copies. And I mentioned who's on this. It's insane. It's Sarah McLachlan, Rufus Wainwright, The Wallflowers, Sheryl Crow, Ben Folds, Stereophonics. It is an amazing. Nick Cave does an amazing version of Let It Be. So 1,500 copies, which means basically no one has this record. It's really rare. 1,500 copies is not a lot of to go around when you're talking about artists of that caliber. And I mean, I know Pearl Jam fans alone would want this just for the Eddie Vedder cover, and there's like 1,500 of them. So the conversation was like, I said, I wish they would repress this. And the retort was, no, let's keep it limited because I don't want there to be so many of every record because then that takes the fun out of it. And I'm like, well, yeah, but that's if you look at this as like a collectible thing. And we got into this conversation and comparing it to collectibles, like, like sports cards, for instance, which is one of the things I always parallel the record collecting hobby to on some levels. And the difference to me is like a sports card or I don't know, a Pokemon card or a Beanie Baby or whatever's collectible over the years. I don't know if that's still a thing, but those are like artifacts. They just sit there on a shelf and they're pretty to look at. To me, a record is a usable thing. Like it serves a purpose. You want to get enjoyment out of it in more ways than just looking at it on a shelf or on display because it contains music that you then experience, right? And so I think it's about perspective. For me, I'm like, no, I don't want to release like I Am Sam to remain limited. I would much rather people be able to enjoy that in the record collection. And so it was an interesting debate because I hadn't really thought of the perspective of, oh, no, let's keep that limited because then I've got a rarity. And I like, I get it that it's cool to have something that's rare. We all like showing off something that no one else has. Like that's just inherently a cool thing. I don't care if it's a record or a car or a motorcycle for that matter, whatever people are into. But as far as records go, I'm like, no, man, 1,500 copies, like they need to repress that and make it readily available. I think there's a balance there. You want to meet the demand. You don't want to press 50,000 of them because they're not, that's just too many. And again, going back to the parallel between sports cards that came up in conversation where in the 90s they pressed so many sports cards, basketball cards, baseball cards, football cards, that it flooded the market because they could just run off millions of them because they're just cheap pieces of cardboard and it devalued everything. And so that was the fear. That was the conversation of if they go press everything that everyone wants, then it's going to devalue everything. And like, I don't think so because records, that parallel doesn't quite work because records are so much more expensive. Like you can run off a batch of, 100,000 sports cards, and that'll cost you X. Running off 100,000 records, that's a totally different expense because of the cost, the hard costs involved with the record itself and everything that goes into that. So point being, it was a very interesting conversation, and it got me thinking. Like, I wonder if there's a lot of other people out there who when so here's the example, like Alice in Chains, Dirt. I'll just keep going back to it. The music on vinyl pressing of Alice in Chains, Dirt. You could easily have sold that if you owned it a couple months ago, before this was announced, before the reissue was announced. It was selling for $150, $200. If you go look at Alice in Chains Unplugged right now, perfect example, or Jar Fly Sap. And you'll see that you can't buy that record for less than $100. Any version of it, even the version that was readily available 3 years ago for $20, $30 retail. So the question is, or I guess the combative point of view was that if everything gets reissued, then all of my records are going to get devalued. It's not quite true though, because the original pressings or even the middle pressings, like the music on vinyl pressings of Alice in Chains, Dirt, and Unplugged and all that, they're not going to completely tank in value. There's not going to be quite as big a market for it because if I can go get this for $35, which I can get right now, do I want to go spend 100 on the music on vinyl pressing that came out 4 years ago? Well, they're two different things. One's a 2 LP, one's a 1 LP, different mastering, maybe slightly different artwork. This one has a hype sticker. So like there's differentiation. So they're not identical. And then there's the collectible aspect where a lot of people like all the different versions just because they're completionists, So I see it both ways. I can see both points of view, but in the end, I thought it would make a really interesting video. So that's something I'm kicking around. You can tell the thought process is still developing. But again, it just kind of shocked me because most of the time when people show a rare record of any kind, the vast majority of the conversation is, I agree, I would love to own that. And this was, no, I don't want to repress that because then mine won't be rare anymore. And I was like, really? I've never seen that point of view because most people are like, to me, I'm just like, I want the music out there. I'd rather the music out there so people can experience it. And coming from a place of having been an artist, I know that's what the artist would want too. The artist would be like, why would you hold that back? If there's an audience for it, that's the thing. If there's no audience for it, there's not enough demand. Well, then of course not. So that's what it comes down to. Like with I Am Sam, whoever put this out, Entertainment One, which I think maybe is a Sony company, but Sony, they may not realize that there's enough demand, or they may not just be open to the fact that there's enough demand for a specific album like that, which is kind of niche. But with bigger titles, it totally makes sense. And with bigger titles, again, like Alice in Chains Dirt or something like that, like they're all going to come. Like it's going to get repressed. I've said it a million times, people, just be patient. There are so few titles of this caliber that are, they're going to get repressed. It's just a matter of being patient. It doesn't matter who the artist is, for the most part. That's generalizing, because there are some that will never get pressed because of legal reasons and things like that. But all right. So Nick says Black Crow's Tall Sessions had 1,000 copies released in my local stores. Didn't get any. My only chance without a reissue is to pay $350 for a used copy. While they're at it, bring back Lost Dogs. So those are unique. So you're talking about the Tall Sessions. Let's see if I can grab it without standing up. I love this record. So I do have it. This is an amazing record. And the reason why this, in my opinion, probably hasn't been repressed is because it's a very extravagant thing. It's a 3 LP. It's a triple gate, like a folding gatefold, color vinyl. It's beautiful. And this is a niche release, though. It's the same as Lost Dogs. It's B-sides, it's outtakes. It's not one of their their core titles. And so I do understand a little bit from an artist's point of view for the Black Crowes and or Pearl Jam, and that there's a big expense. But these days there's so many deluxe, limited editions, multi LP things coming out that they could do it. And they probably will. It's just a matter of getting around to it. I mean, I can tell you from pressing records myself that when a label of any size, whether it's a tiny little indie label like mine or a big label, decides and comes to an agreement with an artist to press a record, there are numbers put behind that. So in this specific case, I guarantee you in the contract, it says that they were going to press 1,000 of these. This is actually put out by the Crowes themselves. So maybe a unique, this is number 456. 456 of 1,000. This one's a little unique, but let's say in Pearl Jam's case of Lost Dogs, when Pearl Jam originally pressed Lost Dogs, and that came out in like 2003, I think it was, I guarantee you Sony, who owns the rights to all of those songs, they had a licensing agreement that said you can only press X number. So that licensing agreement obviously has been fulfilled. They pressed them all. It's done. So in order to press more, they've got to get paperwork involved, and they've got to create a new licensing agreement, and that takes time and effort and resources. And eventually they'll get to it. I hope. You would think in Pearl Jam's case they would, because Rearview Mirror has come, Live on Two Legs has come. So you would think Lost Dogs is coming. We'll see. But it gets into the legalities of what they can do. They can't just call up, the band and or label can't just go press them up themselves. They've got to go, whoever owns the copyright, and they've got to cut a new licensing agreement. A lot of times they got to negotiate that based on who's going to get what as far as a cut is concerned, and all that takes time and effort. So that's why it doesn't happen that easy. Yep, Don's asking for Lost Dogs as well. I'd love to see a reissue of Lost Dogs. Last copy I saw in great condition was well over 500. Yeah, I was going to grab it, but it's a little out of reach. All right, Burr 637. Not knowing if an album will be available later does push people to buy albums when they are first pressed. I agree. There is definitely an aspect of FOMO, fear of missing out, that plays into this hobby, but that's every hobby. I mean, no matter what you collect, if it is in any way collectible or has the ability to maybe become collectible, you're going to get people who are going to jump on it just because they're afraid that they won't get the chance to release it later. It's not like, perishable goods where you can just get more at any time, which is exactly what I was just saying. There's a contract. Like, for example, when we press with the DFW Legacy series, our little record label, we cut a licensing agreement with every artist we work with or label we work with. In our case, we do very limited pressings of usually 200 to 300 records. The biggest one we've done is 600, I think, which was Flicker Stick, but 200 or 300, we cut a licensing agreement and say, hey, give us the rights to press 200 of these. If those 200 sell out and we want to do more, we got to go back and create a new agreement, which in our case is pretty easy because most of the bands we're working with, we know and friendly with, and it's a very mom and pop thing. But put yourself in the case of Alice in Chains and Sony and all the legalities around people who want to make money off that, and managers and former managers and people who own the rights. And there's all kinds of legalities that that are involved in regards to that contract. That's why it takes so much time. They can't just push a button and get it done and a day later have more records, not to mention capacity at pressing plants and how backed up they've been for a couple of years. So it just takes time. Don says, I'd also love a purple vinyl pressing of STP Purple. I can grab that one. I've got, I have too many. So here you go. Let's talk STP Purple. So there's my Walmart version, which my Walmart version, I only own I think I've owned about 3 or 4 Walmart records. This is one of them. It's pretty. From what I remember, does not sound very good. The volume was really low on that one, which was a mastering thing. And then I've got, this is probably, I think this is my original purple one. Yeah. So this is my original pressing on translucent purple. Love this record. Yeah, it's really weird that they didn't do it on purple. That Walmart didn't do it on purple. I get it that the blue splatter kind of matched a little bit, but come on. And what is this one? I think maybe this is a music on vinyl. Maybe this is another purple version. I don't know. Or no, this is just this flat black. This is the flat black version. I think it's an original. Yeah, it's original 94 on black. So there was multiple versions of that one. But yeah, I'm with you, Don. Yeah, I would suspect Lost Dogs is coming soon, man. Burr 637 says, I wish you could get some of the old Dada albums pressed on vinyl. Only their debut albums was pressed on vinyl only in Brazil, if I remember correctly. Such an underappreciated mix. Yeah, man, it's hard. I can tell you, doing legwork, pressing records, it takes time, it takes effort, and in the end, unless you're a major artist and you can sell a couple thousand records, there's not a ton of money to be made. So it comes down to how bad do you want it, you know? And when it comes down to albums like this, which is, like I talked about at the beginning, the record that my label is putting out, the reason why this exists is not because it's going to make me or my partners money. It's not going to make the band money. The reason why it exists is because we wanted it that bad. We just want it because it's cool. Like, that's it. It's the only reason we're doing it. We're literally making $0 on this. The artist is not making any money. The label's not making any money. The fans are getting it, and I'm getting it to put it on my turntable and listen to it. That's the only reason we're doing it in small quantities. If you can sell 1,000 records or more, yeah, you can make some money. Still not a lot of money because records are expensive to produce, and then you got to, and then you can't charge too much because you'll outprice the market, So it's a tricky balance, but in the end, if there's people in it that have the passion for it, like we do with our label, then that's when it can happen, Thank you very much. Let's see. Any update on that Will Johnson record that you're working on? I do have an update on that, Jack. I will talk to you about that. We've got some really cool stuff in the works with DFW Legacy Series. For those people who are local, again, this is my label, presses local bands from the past. Someone asked about Course of Empire earlier. Jack's asking about Will Johnson and his I believe you're talking about his original band Funland that he played drums in. We're working on some stuff. So very excited about the next couple of months about what we're doing with the DFW Legacy Series. So let's see. That's all I got for today. Anybody have any other questions? I'm happy to chat. I don't see anything else on my list. I've got a UPS order waiting for me downstairs. I think it's still on my front porch. Hopefully not in the sun, but it's only been there for a few minutes, so it'll be okay. So I'm going to sign off here and start unboxing that order. I'll probably live stream that on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, I'll probably put my camera up there and live stream the unboxing. The vast majority of what's in that order is going into my local shops. Some of it will be for an upcoming episode of Vinyl for Sale. Yes, Don. Clark Vogler was an original member in the Funland band. He sure was. Wilco new pressing. Wilco's in the boxes downstairs on my front patio. I can't wait to check that out. I know Jack ordered one of those. Um, awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate it, Don. Yeah, pre-orders are in. I got you other pre-orders too, Jack. I forget which ones they were, but I think you ordered 3 or 4 other records with that Wilco, so those are in. Assuming they come in undamaged, I'll have them for you Friday, tomorrow at Highland Village. I'm planning on restocking that early tomorrow morning, I think, but my schedule could always shift. So thank you all as always. Make sure and follow us. Like I said, I'm going to unbox some stuff over on Instagram after I get some lunch. Sorry that you missed it, Brian. I know the time. I know I need to follow up with you as well. Appreciate you tuning in. But yeah, you can go back and watch it on demand. That's the great thing about this YouTube thing is I'll have it archived here and post it. Follow us across our other channels. I don't know if any of you folks are on TikTok. I'm trying to create some momentum over there too, so you can check it out there. Like I mentioned, the Instagram thing, Facebook. I'm on Facebook, of course, and we've got an email list too. So sign up on our email list. If you're not there, we're going to start doing some cool stuff on our email list. I was just talking with a couple of buddies that I work with now, and we're going to start offering some exclusive stuff over there, only to those that are on our email list. So got a lot going on, a lot coming up. Next week, I'll do another NTX live. We'll talk about some upcoming events I've got going on and a few other things, and hopefully you guys will get a new episode of Talking About Records here soon if I can focus on it this afternoon, maybe tomorrow. So appreciate it, and we will see you again next time.